Hello, new Reapers! Today we are reviewing Death Tales, a game that comes to us from developer and publisher Arcade Distillery. I played this one on Steam. It is also available on the Nintendo Switch. The current price on Steam is $9.99. Death Tales is an action RPG with some platforming elements, and there is a co-op option available, which is how I played the majority of this game. In Death Tales, you play as a new Reaper that has gone rogue, as the developers say. Essentially, you are progressing through worlds with your companion, who I'm not quite sure what he was. He kind of looks like a little tin straw man hybrid. In each level, you face waves of enemies, and you do have to defeat every enemy on screen in order to progress to the rest of the level. There is a counter located on the top of the screen that lets you know if there are still enemies in the area that you will have to defeat before you progress. You fight through these levels using a combination of your main attack and a dash attack, and you can add these together for combos. You can also hold down your main attack in one of these combos to conduct a heavy attack. As you progress, you also gain magical abilities, which you can assign to the left and right bumper on your controller. As you fight through enemies, you also have to keep platforming in mind, as you will have to jump, bounce on leaves, and dodge axes and spikes. There is some degree of free will when it comes to which level you will complete next, as you can choose from branching paths, but ultimately there are certain levels that have to be completed in order to progress. The optional levels will net you treasures, which oftentimes are equipable items, and you can equip your Reaper with all sorts of things, from different types of armor to hoods that give you special abilities, as well as new weapons. You can also purchase some of these equipable items from several shops that you will find along your journey. The currency to purchase these items is earned by completing levels, as well as completing some bounties, which you can find along the way as well. You'll also find yourself going up against a few bosses in this world, and they are quite a sight to see, as are the enemies. They're definitely a little bit different from your average enemy. As you fight bosses and enemies, you do have to keep an eye on your health bar and your magic levels, as they can become depleted, but fear not, you can replenish those bars by either defeating enemies or finding treasure boxes that are scattered throughout the levels, which do have additional health and magic in them. There's nothing inherently wrong with the gameplay of Death Tales. It's a pretty basic button masher where you're really just mashing on your main attack for the majority of this game, occasionally dashing over cliffs and avoiding other obstacles, but it does get a bit repetitive as you progress through these levels. There's really not a whole lot of thought that goes into this, nor is there really a whole lot of strategy. Yes, you can equip different magic and different items, but the game fundamentally doesn't change with those options. I think my biggest point of contention with Death Tales, however, was the implementation of the co-op. It brings me so much joy when a game like this has co-op, because I love to play a game like this with a friend, but it was bad. There's no other way around it. The other character you can't equip items for. He's just stuck with the basic attacks and whatever the other Reaper is using for magic. He can't fit through some spaces, which is a problem, so I basically had to tell my poor friend to jump off a cliff so I can progress. And of course, there was a problem with one of the characters dying and then respawning over a cliff over and over again, so I couldn't progress because they would just keep dying. There was also the issue of visibility. If one character would try and go further off screen, the screen wouldn't split in any way, so only one person would be able to see what they were doing, which is not ideal. So basically, co-op, great in thought, not in execution, and same pretty much applies to this game in general. I love the idea of it. I love a good button masher. This one just felt a little dull. I do have to say I like where they went with the art design. At first, in the first few levels, I wasn't so sure because it felt a little bit repetitive and I wasn't sure if we were going to be stuck with the same look for the entirety of the game. But there is a good variation to the types of levels once you go to a different world, and it's very colorful. The backgrounds are very detailed, surprisingly so, and sometimes in a very creepy way. Look at that sun in one of the levels. It kind of looks like the moon from Majora's Mask, and it scared me a little. But overall, I love the character design. I thought that they looked like works of art. They almost look like a painting. They're quite beautiful. Level design was beautiful. A nice looking game. I have no complaints about how this game looked. The soundtrack was exactly what you'd expect from a game that was talking about Grim Reapers. Almost sounds like a Danny Elfman soundtrack again. A lot of orchestration, a lot of organ sounds. It's very nice. I had no complaints about the soundtrack either. I did get a little worried in the first couple worlds because the song was the same for each level, but it does branch out once you leave that first world again, so don't get too concerned if it starts to feel a little repetitive at first. Sound effects were also adequate, nothing special. I would count Death Tales as a win in the overall sound and look department, but maybe not so much in the gameplay department. There is some room for growth here for sure. I needed a little bit more variety to the gameplay, maybe a bit of a better implementation of the co-op mode so I could have a more enjoyable experience playing with a friend. Death Tales isn't a bad game, it's just nothing new, and I think that that's okay. When I was playing this game, there was a sale that made the price $4.99. That sale is no longer going on, but I think the sale price was about what I would want to pay for this experience. Thank you very much for checking out our review of Death Tales. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, hit the subscribe button below so you can follow all of our reviews and previews. And don't forget to check out the description box for links to our Discord, our merchandise, as well as our memberships if you'd like to support us further. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.